You are listening to the audiobook Veilshatter, Legends of Elyndar, now available on Amazon, Audible, and wherever books are sold. Featuring our three unforgettable heroes, an epic adventure begins.
Flight into dawn. Avestra's air tasted of wet slate and spent magic. The scholar's ward dropped behind Liora as she slid along a slate gutter and hung for a moment above a drop tangled with trembling, dew-heavy vines. Her cloak snagged on ancient thorns, the fabric catching midnight's last breath, while dawn's first threat blushed faintly behind the city's spired brow. Far below, market squares coiled in rune-lit lace, no traffic yet but a scattering of rain-dented salt bowls abandoned by doors, wardings rendered useless by careless hands or nights grown too long. She released her grip and landed hard, pain reverberating through souls worn raw by flight and soul-weaving alike. Shadows pooled along the alley's spine, the sky above rivered with bone-bright clouds, drifting too quickly for her peace. Runes flickered fitfully on red-hued walls, their glow unreliable, a warning more than protection. All protection felt hollow after the mirror's predation. Each rune was a word in a dying script, a language of hope slowly eroded by hunger. Exhaustion rode her bones, marrow burned quick by soul-weaving's reckless spilling. Her magic had been a door, unguarded. She sensed the price still gnawing within. Her heart stuttered, rhythm faltering, as the memory currents receded. It left her body feeling transparent, vulnerable. A lantern nearly guttered. She pressed her palm to the ridged stone. Cool dampness gathered along the base of her fingers. "It's just water," she mumbled. "Just water." But the touch threatened to slip her sideways, into the drift of memories clinging like damp along runic seams, scholars casting dice for prophecy, children chalking glyphs beneath silent archways, the knife glint of mother's laughter behind a locked door. Her own memories jostled with strangers' fragments, dredged by soul-weaving gone wild. Runes, she remembered. Never touch when your soul's unmoored, or you might soak up more than the cold. She withdrew, forcing breath in and out, tasting copper next to the sweet, faint afterburn of burnt sage. The city's silence deepened, not tranquil but baited. A hush that presaged rupture. A gate creaked at the alley's far mouth. Lantern light wavered, casting misshapen shadows leaping over the abandoned salt bowls. In some places, the grains were scattered, tracks etched by nothing she could name. Echo memories, she thought. Or worse. Her steps were light but urgent, cloak drawn up around the line of her jaw. The salt glistened pale as bone, moon water pooled soft and trembling in shallow clay. Someone had left petals amid the offering, but petals bruised black, drinks for spirits grown bold at the thinning of worlds. No sign of the eclipse thralls, but she moved with the knowledge that their shadows ran quicker than their bodies, a weight at the base of her skull, a pressure like a finger tracing the nape of her neck. Far ahead the rune lamps flickered but did not die outright. It was as if even they hesitated to spend the last of their strength. Her mother's voice, not real but crawled from memory's sore tooth, shivered behind her ear. "Find the others, do not bleed alone." Liora bit the inside of her cheek, swallowing whatever remnants of longing threatened to spill out. There was no comfort left to glean from reflection or recall. The shadow behind the glass had shown her how little the implements of warding mattered when the old hunger meant to come through. The arch leading into Candlemoth Lane yawned ahead. Here, the runes were older, etched in deeper with steel and nerve, from a time when spellworkers believed they could still hold back the Veilborn's rot by sheer stubbornness. Motes of memory flickered above the brick, small as fireflies. Each drifted past her head, their glow sometimes copper, sometimes blue, trailing scents, fried onions, winter cloves, or the tang of recent tears. She tasted fear in the city's rhythm, eyes pressed to window cracks, the unspoken prayers folded inside each emptied home. The seasoned watchman took the long route, detouring down mossy stairwells and past the spirit bridges that had carried the living and the dead for 3 generations. Even the stray Varelian songbirds kept heads tucked low, restless wings glimmering faintly in the coming dawn. Liora's hands itched for a focus, a scrap of written runecraft to anchor her, but all her tools were spent or scattered to the night. She pressed her right thumb to her left wrist, tracing the line where she once bore the soul-right's mark, when she and her mother would stitch runes of safety above headboards just before sleep. The scar felt hot, pulsing faintly, but no magic rose in answer. She avoided the mouth of Honeycomb Market and pressed instead toward a tangle of alleys she'd mapped long before her mother's vanishing, a net of walkways named for vanished patrons and the ghosts of trades gone cold. She moved as if memory could not catch her here, as if old ritual could hold against what hunted her. The sharp odor of heart-tree sap drifted from an open window, a small mercy. For a moment she closed her eyes, willing herself to recall the nursery rhyme, heart-tree for truth, shadow for lies, salt for the feet that never die, useless, but grounding. Then, a noise, a breath exhaled in the hush, soft and guttural. A pebble clattered. Liora spun, heart pounding with the thunderous double-pulse soul-weaving sometimes left in its wake. Too soon and too much, and her soul would slip from her skin, but to stand frozen was to be claimed by any number of dangers, spiritual and fleshly alike. A second step, this time deliberate. Liora flattened against the pocked wall of an apothecary, words ghosting from her lips. "Reveal, if you come with peace." Her voice scraped raw in the half-light. A shadow peeled from near the hinge of a cast-iron gate. Human, draped in the faded scholar's gray of Avestra, but thin enough to vanish among deeper gloom. Sin Grell only, she realized, dread and relief washing together. He wore the quarter-turn sigil of the forbidden chronicler, a mark that shimmered yellow even as the runes guttered around them. "Liora," Sen's voice was low, dust-muffled. "They hunt the market perimeters. You shouldn't be here alone." She tried to say, "So where should I go?" but her vocal cords felt peeled raw. Instead, "There's no safe place in the city tonight." Sen's gaze swept the alley's hungry edges. They prowled the bridges after the third bell. Too many old wounds for any ward to hold. A shrouded one in mourning black carried a relic-bound artifact, swaddled in iron net and salt twine. Spirits scalded where they passed. "You felt it, I think." She nodded. Words pressed behind her teeth. "I saw the shadow's face in the mirror. It wants me to sing open the world's wound. I nearly let it." But she only breathed. "The runes are failing." He winced. No strength left in scholar or salt tonight. Only those who walk memory's edge remain unscathed. A precious, dangerous few. If you meant to rally allies, find them quickly. Veil fugitives hunt the outlying courts. The drover's path is safest, if you take the long route and trust the cairns to keep their bargain. The living cairns, heaped stones haunted by ancestral spirits that, in theory, owed her mother's line a debt. Theory was bitterly thin after the lament, but hope was the last coin left her. She weighed her exhaustion. I could try soul-weaving, just a touch, to wake a cairn's warning. But the dull ache in her skull, the shaking in her limbs, said no. Magic now would use her up. Worse, it might ring through Avestra like a cracked bell, signaling to all the wrong minds. "I'm spent," she confessed, not meeting Sen's eyes. "If the shadow's hunting me, I'm an easy trail." We're all trails now, Sen murmured, but some are lit farther than others. He looked ready to offer a hand, but she pulled her cloak closer, more shield than warmth. I have to go, she said, each word an effort dredged up from a hollow not yet filled. Will you? I'll send word to Ariel at Copper Gate, and Veyron north by the waters. Talon will scent danger before the rest. Meet us at the Weeping Knoll if you can walk that far. Liora nodded. A bead of resolve formed inside the glacial exhaustion. What little soul-weaving remained she would use only if the city's wound gaped wider, not a moment sooner. Already the world rocked gently, threatening to heave her into shade or dream. Sen vanished into the tangle of alleys, sigil gleaming once before the dawn promised to break. The market silence no longer comforted her. She skirted the scattered bowls, the line of upended carts, the echo of laughter traded last year. Above, the spirit bridges creaked, restless. A thunderbird's cry cracked the air, unnatural in its pitch. Shadows ran crosswise, thick as syrup. Somewhere beyond the city wall, the pulse of the Veilborn quickened, drawn to her bare-boned ache. She walked with purpose now, heading for the broken stair that would carry her to the outer runes, her nerves thrumming, magic spent but will unbroken. Each step found firmer purchase, the world stiffer with growing light, but every old scar in the city's skin called out their own name, a warning and a summons both. Dawn pooled weakly along the horizon, as if the sun doubted the right to rise. Runes on the outer archways spat sparks. Desperate. Liora paused only once, palm pressed to stone, vowing against all the old prophecies. Her soul is not a door, her hunger not an invitation. She slipped into the graying alleys, soul cracked but unyielding, heartbeat echoing the city's own unrest. Each shadow she passed bore a question and a promise. How much light will you spend tonight? How much darkness will you carry with you? And at what cost? One step, and then another. Toward the knoll. Toward whatever allies prophecy spared her. Toward the heart of the coming storm that had, at last, found her name